Our speaker tonight is Christos Archos, and he's joining us at Aquarius 7 for the first time. Christos is very well known in his native Greece and internationally, and we're absolutely delighted to welcome him here tonight. He has over 2 decades of experience as a practicing astrologer, and he's at the forefront of pioneering research in the field. He founded the Mediterranean and Balkan Institute for Astrological Research, which is dedicated to the study and advancement of astrology in Greece. And he's currently spearheading the CCONOS Research Centre, which is a groundbreaking initiative focused on exploring the intersections of astrology with the social sciences and the noetic sciences. As a distinguished figure in the field of astrology and psychology, Christos is renowned for his expertise and extensive contributions to the Greek astrological community. Christos is a prominent presence on various media and television shows in Greece, and in addition to his media appearances, he has also written various works on psychological astrology. It's not surprising, really, that over the last decades, Christos has earned a reputation as a leading Greek astrologer, and we're delighted to welcome him to speak to us tonight on the role of astrology in dealing with family labyrinths in his talk From Family Dramas to Catharsis. So welcome, Christos, and over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very happy that I'm with you today, and I have to say that I'm honored because of what you do and your job and all of this. You are doing it through donation, which is for me very important, because there are people that they want to have a contact with astrology, but usually they don't have the money or the ability to have in contact with such an incredible tool that helped at least my life for a lot of years before and helps me even now. So if anyone has any kind of question, I'm more than happy to have your question in the Q&A box or later on through the microphone. Today we are going to speak about family and how family labyrinths can be uncovered by astrology, but also how we can work together, the practitioner, the astrologer, and the one that comes to the office in order to bring some light, for example, to the depths of family situations. I'm going to make my screen being shared in order to see my PowerPoint. I hope you are seeing it clearly right now. Perfect. And now we are going to start. And first, we are going to start with the classic ancient Greek culture, okay? We talk about family and the concept of fate. We already know that from ancient Greek culture and religion, where there is a concept of things happening in a way like being faithful. On the other hand, we have the Stoic philosophy and the basis of astrology during the Roman years, which has to do with understanding that life sometimes cannot be changed, and we need to stoically see our life being revealed. And also we know about family dramas, and we know how Sigmund Freud spoke about Oedipus complex and all of these complexes on our human psyche. And in Greece we have hubris and nemesis. So if you do something against the order, then there is always the divine punishment. And then we know that according to Freud, we have the concept of the nuclear family. And I have to inform you that I'm speaking mostly from a westernized point of view, okay? For example, people in Japan, people in India or in Asia may differentiate in the way they understand what I'm going to tell today, because astrology is also working on a cultural level. So usually on the Western world, the nuclear family played a very important role. But for example, in societies like that of India or in Japan, those things may differentiate because culture plays an important way of understanding and receiving astrological aspects and interpreting them afterwards in a social constructed reality. So we know that in the Western world, the family is a model of our individual development. And this individual develops through relationships with his parents. Also, we know that the family is the nucleus of important complexes, such as I told before, the Oedipus complex, and the individual, sometimes for Freud, is seen as an evil and sick person from the influence of society. If you want to understand how exactly understands Freud individuality, you can read The Civilization is a Source of Disaster. In Greek is a different title, but I think the book of Sigmund Freud, it is Civilization, Source of Illness, or something like that in English. And it talks about how society, in fact, sickens our individuality. And then we have the modern scientific development, and this is how the discovery of DNA and new scientific developments in psychology revealed things that we didn't knew till then, till the last 2 decades. For example, we know that personality is being affected by around 30%. So yes, when we are born, we have some predestined influence to show some personality characteristics around 30%. The rest of the 70% is influenced by the environment. And this is where I think we have to understand, for example, the Huber astrology. If you don't know about the Huber astrology, I think you can try and search. It's only that I'm going to. Okay. And this is a very basic book about the Hubers. It is called Astrological Psychology. It is from Hopewell publication in England. And you can find it, of course, in English. It is a great book of showing the Huber psychological astrology and how the Hubers developed their psychological astrology. So we have the biological influence, which is, of course, very important in understanding diseases and other stuff, but also, according to the Huber astrology, the biology can be found through the zodiac signs. So we have the zodiac circle, and we have then the houses, and the houses show the environmental influences. And especially when we have planets between the 27th and the 4th degree of every sign, usually there is not very strong biological influence, while when we have planets from the 5th degree to the 70th degree or to the 80th degree, then we have a strong biological influence. And by the 70th degree till the 27th, we have mediocre planetary influence through our genes. So we have this concept also in classical astrology about the anaretic degrees. We know that the last 3 degrees of every sign is not very powerful, and usually the planet has an influence from the next sign. Or we know that in the first 3 degrees of every sign, things usually are very early to show up, especially for those who are doing horary astrology. You may use this canon, but through the biological influences and how the Hubers saw the zodiac signs, when you have a planet on the 27th to the 4th degree, perhaps there is no clear influence through biology about doing something. On the other hand, we have the environment, and the environment shapes our destiny also. So Also, as someone that has education in psychology, we know that humans are also byproducts, not just of biology, but also we are products of our environmental influences. For example, I'm a Greek. I have a specific social construction and understanding on things. Most of you are British. You have a different way of thinking. If we have someone from India or from China or from Kenya, would have also a different way of thinking, and the environment would affect what is important for him or not. For example, what I'm saying to my students in order to understand the environmental influence, in Greece right now, the couples divorce from their marriages around in 35%. In Cyprus, the Greek-speaking part, they divorce around 9%. If we go to the Netherlands, which is a completely different Western European culture than us, the couples divorce around 50% or more. So, for example, if you go to a natal chart and see the natal promise for divorce, you are going to say that he's going to divorce. But in Cyprus, the same charts divorce only on 9%, when the same charts divorce in Greece in 35%. And in Netherlands, they divorce in 50%. And this is how culture affects the result, and also how culture and the civilization we live in, also through the environment, affects our life. The Hubers also constructed a very detailed system on how the house affects our realities. They said that the region around the beginning of every house, it is called an external point, and they use the Koch-house system. So when you have a planet exactly at the beginning of a house system, usually there the environmental influence is very strong. For example, you have a planet that it is in conjunction with the beginning of the third house. The cusp of the third house is in conjunction with another planet. This means that this planet is very well felt through the environment. We have this also feeling when we talk about the ascendant, the midheaven, the descendant, and the IC. When a planet is in conjunction with those two axes of the ascendant and of the midheaven, usually their influence is of paramount importance. It is of paramount importance because usually the environment pushes us very hard to fill those planets through various events, or through our families, or through events that happen in our life, even in a mundane level or on a personal level. And of course, the environment also shapes the perceptions, beliefs, ideas, and relationships we have with different people. For example, a revolutionary act for a woman that lives in Persia may be taking out the chador. A revolutionary act for a woman living, for example, in the United States may be having 3 children without being married. Both are revolutionary actions, but they are different in action. And then we have the personal planets. We have the sun that has to do with self, Mercury about communication, Venus, satisfaction, moon, emotions, Mars, sexuality. But of course, there are much more than those keywords, and they determine the individuality of the person and usually differentiate him in relations to others from a biological level. For example, someone that has Venus, let's say in Taurus, may be more prone to have some more stable personal relationships, and perhaps Venus in Gemini may be more free on dealing and creating relationships. But of course, the house plays an important role, the aspects, the midpoints, and you can see further many more details to understand finally if that Venus in Taurus is so stable in her relationships and this Venus in Gemini maybe not. And we have society and its planets. Jupiter and Saturn has to do with the social planets, and Jupiter and Saturn help us understand how we are incorporating or how we use all these opportunities within a society. Jupiter is the opportunities we have in order to expand, while Saturn are the opportunities to become more grounded and more successful in society's demands, if we can deal, of course, with those demands. And then we have, of course, the anima mundi. We have Uranus. Poseidon is in Greek. I'm sorry, Neptune is in English. So is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And we talk about the cosmic word. Okay, so there is a very important book I'm always saying about people to buy, and is about this one of Erin Sullivan, The Astrology of Family Dynamics. Unfortunately, Sullivan passed away, I think, the last year. I think was one of the, I was really very sad when I heard that. But this is a very book of hers about family and how the astrology of family dynamics come up, and also talks about the anima mundi and how those three planets perhaps influence us in the long term. For example, we know that in the Second World War, a lot of people have died, and we have, of course, the Holocaust and the Jews being killed by the Nazis. And we know that even today, people that are born so many decades afterwards, they may have some memories and some visions from and pictures from situations their ancestors lived before 66 decades. So we know that the cosmic influence, the anima mundi, is not just influencing us right now. It influences also in the long term, because something that happened in my family before one generation or two generations or even 7 generations may affect me even today. For example, in my family, my grandfather got killed because we were occupied by the Nazis in the 1940s, and he was brutally killed by the Nazis. And the children saw that. This influenced the family afterwards, because when you see something so shocking, like your father being killed by a Nazi in front of the square of the village, this is something of paramount importance. So we have people that, although they have died, they influence us even today. So we have our personal characteristics that are formed through biology and through environment. We have the social construction and influence we have because of the country we live. And then we have the major events we have all around the world that affect in the long term the families and also ourselves. And of course, the axes play a very important role. The ascendant and the midheaven, not the midnight, as I'm reiterating here, so I'm sorry. The ascendant and the midheaven are very important factors, and they show us how the person evolves through the social pressures. You may be a sun having an opposition with Saturn. Okay, both of you may feel the strict energy of this opposition between Sun and Saturn, but someone that has this Sun and Saturn opposition on the ascendant or on the midheaven, he is not going to feel this pressure through his family. This pressure is going to be projected within the society in how this person is feeling the whole world. So while we have the same aspects, perhaps a person that he was born on the same day with you, your house situation and how the cusps of the houses are formed within the natal chart is going to give you much more information about what really happens with you and the society you are living with. Imagine a very simple thing, a person that he's gay. Someone that he's gay right now, for example, in a country in Africa, may be shot. Someone that he's gay, for example, in the Netherlands can marry someone and live his life without any problem. So the same situation can be very differently be felt when you see a chart. And this is where, for example, astrogeography also plays a very important role. If you, for example, live in United Kingdom and you have this Uranus being on your midheaven, you're going to feel in England a lot of turbulence and changes because Uranus is going to be felt through your society in a much more prominent way. Or you may be an astrologer, who knows? But if you relocate, this Uranus may be changed. So the social structure of this country is going to alter the influence is going to give you this Uranus. So it may be more creative, for example, through the fifth, or may be more hidden if you go to a country being your Uranus in the 12th. And of course, the great conjunctions of the planets play a very important role. For example, the latest Saturn-Pluto conjunction, we all know it is connected with the COVID. I don't know how you feel it in United Kingdom, but we had to give messages to go out from our houses in Greece. We didn't have the right to go out from our houses if we didn't say to the government, SMS 6, I'm going out for my dog. SMS 5, I have to go to the supermarket. SMS 2, I have to relocate because my parent is sick. We have to give to the government what we have to do in order to go out from the house. So every again country lived the system in a much more different way, but the Saturn-Pluto conjunction affected, for example, the lives of the children, not just for the years of the lockdown. We now know through the social sciences research that humanity is going backwards for around 2 decades because the educational system in the Western Europe failed through the online systems to give to the children the proper education they had to do, and they had to learn things that they didn't. So just 2 years of lockdown give us 20 years of slowing our access in sciences in the future. Just 2 years of lockdown. So we know that this Saturn-Pluto conjunction on Capricorn is going to influence not just us that we lived this situation, but also our ancestors. So past influences also can be and influence the future. And if you have, for example, your ascendant, your midheaven, or a cusp through specific degrees, then you're going to be affected by the next crisis. I'm saying crisis because I believe it is going to change the world, and I'm talking about the 2026, when we are going to have Saturn and Neptune in conjunction in the 0 degrees of Aries. At the same time, Uranus is going to be in the early degrees of Gemini, and also Pluto is going to be in the early degrees of Aquarius. This is going to be something significant, and we know that it's going to be affecting everyone. But if you have your ascendant or your midheaven or your personal planets on these specific degrees, you're going to feel it much more intensely than the rest of us. And we have also the concept of the prenatal chart. Alice Bailey talked, I think, first about the prenatal chart and how much of importance it is. I'm usually looking at the prenatal chart and especially the conception chart in order to understand how exactly the fetus lived within the womb of the mother. And we know that the emotional situation the mother was feeling during the 9 months the child was in the womb affected it in many ways. Science, not astrology, says that if the mother was feeling anxious, probably there is a significant probability later on the child have an anxious disorder. This is not astrology that says that. This is about modern science in psychology. So if you have a mother that is feeling very threatened or anxious about dealing with everyday life, or perhaps does not like
this child. This is not just an emotion. This is going to be on the fingerprints. It is going to be in the chart. So you have to look also the prenatal chart to understand what really happened, what this fetus felt within the child. And of course, it's not about only the prenatal chart, it's about the family as a whole. We all know at least the birth time of our parents, the birth date of our parents. We know our charts and we know the charts of our children. Do something and you are going to see a elevation. If you have solar fire, go to chart and then go to combined and then go to combined derivative ascendant. And after you have already put all of the charts in the solar fire, choose them all. And solar fire is going to create you a chart for your family. This chart then you can combine with your chart and you are going to see revealing aspects of how you really feel within this family system. For example, your sun may be in conjunction with the Pluto of the family system. This means that perhaps the family system is very tough towards you and demands from you to do some serious transformation things. Or perhaps your Saturn hits the sun of the family, so you are the one that you are going to make this family grow. And sometimes when you grow, there is some pain. Depending on the outer planet, you can understand the situation within the family system chart and also your chart. Jupiter will add growth, but also over optimism. Saturn will give success, but also limitation. Chiron, evolution, but also trauma. Uranus, freedom, but also dissolution. For example, you have a chart of 4 people. I'm saying 4 people because usually in Greece, UK, France, we are father, mother, and 2 children. This is the basics. So in 4 people, perhaps you have a Uranus being in conjunction with the ascendant. This is going to be a family that's going to see some dissolution because the family standards may not work a lot and you may have some revolutionary situations or events. Neptune will also add emotion and pain or transcendence. And Pluto may bring achievement but also distraction. And then we have usually the scapegoat. Look at the family chart and look at your chart. If you have Pluto in the family IC, your Pluto conjunction the families IC. Those are random charts. This is not a family chart, but you can go to chart, combined, and you choose composite group derivative ascendant. I say this is not one family chart, but I'm just saying that, let's say that this is 4 people, okay? And we add them and we say, okay, so this is the family chart, the composite family chart. And you can see many things. What I'm saying on the PowerPoint is perhaps having a Pluto on the IC or your Pluto conjunction the IC of the family. Right now, although this is not a family, we have Uranus opposing the Sun in the 4th, 10th. This may mean, for example, turbulence, relocations, lack of safety, a family struggling with relationships, because we have also the Aries Libra axis activated by the Sun Uranus. On this chart, if it was a family's chart, we have also Uranus being the ruler of the 7th and of the 8th on the 4th chart. A sudden death within the family that perhaps created a sudden turbulence, and they have to realign with their boundaries and how they have to survive later on in the situation. A moon on the 12th may seem protective because it is in the Cancer, but how many things have not been told because the emotions are not being expressed through this 12th house. So we may feel about a family of not speaking, but just sowing and surviving. But as I said, this is not a real chart, so I'm not going to make stories out of nothing. So let's go back again to the PowerPoint. You can see again my PowerPoint?
Yes, it's fine.
So we have this Pluto in conjunction the IC, or many times Saturn can be a very powerful significator, showing the bastard, the one going outside the family, this that he is exiled. In family constellations therapy, it is important the concept of belonging. One great healing sentence in family constellation is I belong. Or when you say to your family and your brother or someone that is exiled from the family system, we say to him, you belong. The sense of belongingness is a therapeutic sense, a sense of being in a construction and everyone is part of it. Unfortunately, we are doing the exactly opposite sometimes in the Western family. We don't like children that they do what they want because we want to follow what we want as parents. We don't want independent women. We don't want gays. We don't want unsuccessful people, and we exclude them. And exclusion means pain, means scapegoating, and you can find it by a Pluto or Saturn being conjunction with the IC or connected with the axis of the family chart or your chart. The black sheep, especially Uranus here, is very important. We have someone that he is differentiate from the rest of the family, or perhaps someone that he is very provoking through his Mars energy. Also, a Mercury-Uranus aspect may be very important. You have seen, of course, in many charts of autistic people that they have a Sun or Mercury connection with Uranus. And so you may not have a black sheep, but someone that differentiates from the rest of the family. And usually the family cannot incorporate them. In Greece, for example, and I'm not speaking about Athens, we are not so bad right now. But for example, outside of Greece, there are people that they have mental illness and the family does not recognize it because they don't want to see the mental illness in their children. We don't want to see the truth. I don't know how exactly that this can be in UK, but outside of Athens, this happens a lot. We try to hide from the mental health problems. My son is not ill. He's not schizophrenic. He's not autistic. My child is okay. But this is not inclusion. This is hiding from the problem. And this is going to create for this person one more problem because not even his parents do not accept his situation. And even if your parents do not accept you, how you are going to be accepted by the rest? Or how you are going to accept yourself? So the black sheep usually is connected with Uranus, a strong Mars with difficult aspects, or with a Mercury-Uranus aspect. And then we have the disruptor of continuity and the diplomat, which is not bad usually to have a diplomat, but not when you are the diplomat against your own well-being. You know, those people that they try to make a balance for every conflict, and you finally end up being alone and insecure because the rest of you do not consider your feelings. Intense Libra in your chart. Look on the astrodynes in a chart and look where is Libra. If you have Libra very high in the astrodynes and then it has a negative number, this is perhaps and a significator of, you are a diplomat that finally works against you. Neptune also works really bad because Neptune wants to give redemption for the past. And then there is another concept in the family constellation, which we call the following. When someone is not having a catharsis from the past, we have an event of a person that died and he's not put in this correct position. There is not catharsis. Perhaps a person from the younger generation makes what we call the following the same mistakes, following the same destruction this person from the past was having. And when we want to keep the family protected, sometimes we deny this role for the person. So someone, a Neptunian person probably, makes the concept of the following. That's why they usually have drugs, smoke, and other self-destructive behaviors. Then we have the catalyst. The catalyst is the one that has the power, the one with the strong Pluto or Scorpionic influences, the one that is going to bring the crisis in order for the family to see the truth. Usually the family denies reality because we are afraid of change and we are afraid to be alone. So usually the people that they have a strong Pluto or a strong Scorpio in their chart, they are going to bring those crises, or they have an unexpected Pluto also. Just to show again, if someone does not know how to see the astrodynes in solar fire, you can go to reports, tabulations, and then you go to astrodyne, plan, and asp. So if you have a Pluto very high, that means that probably you are a catalyst. If you go to astrodyne signs and you see Scorpio being very high, perhaps you're again a catalyst. And you can see again if there is harmony or disharmony in the chart. If there is a lot of disharmony, probably you are a catalyst that provokes problems and you need to find a balance. If you have a Pluto that it is positive, then perhaps you are a catalyst for the best. What is very important is that if you have a negative here summary, does not mean that you're bad. Probably you are wounded, you had the trauma, and you don't know how to protect yourself. Probably psychotherapy may also be helpful. So don't victimize yourself and say, I'm bad. Especially the Protestants, you're very good on that because of the concept of the Christian Protestant understanding. You are very on whipping yourself and, do all this kinky stuff. So don't do that to yourself, okay? You are good. If you have these negative signs, probably means that you have a trauma and you need healing, and you're not bad. Let's go back again to the PowerPoint. We have the destroyer, which is again not a bad role. Sometimes we need something to be destroyed in order to go further in our life. The destroyers are usually people that have strong Pluto or strong Uranian elements, and usually they are connected to some previous ancestor. Probably you are going to see your Uranus or your Pluto being in conjunction, square, or opposition with the sun or the moon of your mother, father, or any other previous generation ancestor. We have the victim, which is of course is connected with Neptune. And we have this kind of victimization and passive-aggressive behavior. Usually we say that the victims are not aggressive, but the ones that are being victims, they can later on be the prosecutor. For example, I have a client that was a victim of a rape. She was raped at her 17. And usually, in her age, in Greece of the 1960s, no, a woman will not talk of being raped. She will stop speaking and she will live with the trauma. No speaking about rape in the 60s. And she made her family. But also, she started being passive aggressive because she had so much anger that was not expressed in a correct way because of this rape. So sometimes when you see a victim, you may see also a passive aggressive behavior. And we have the stabilizers. You know that the stabilizers are the ones that they have intense fixed cross. A lot of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius people want things not to be changed. And imagine yourself being a Sagittarius with a lot of planets there. And you have a mother that has a Taurus, Scorpio ascendant and moon in Leo. You are going to have a great fun with her because you won't change and she wants everything to be fixed forever because of her fixed mentality. And of course, we know that the cardinal cross wants to do dynamic changes, and the mutable cross tends to move on in life and away from the family. And then we have the curse and the gift. You have to take a genogram. In family constellations, the genogram is very easy. You put yourself at the center and then you do the family tree with the parents and the previous generations. Do that for yourself and put whatever details of natal charts you have. The communication between the chart is going to be revealing. There is also a very good program that it is constructed for family constellations, and it is called Jigsaw. The Jigsaw version 2. It is available to buy from the same, I think, company of Solar Fire. And you can put your family, and Jigsaw is going to find you all the common aspects, midpoints, and planetary patterns you have within your family. You can do it by your hand, but it is always easier to just push start. And then you will have in some seconds the report. We have the 4 elements. When a family chart has a lot of fire, we may have the egoistic family, the family that wants to promote individuals and wants to be successful and inspiring. We have the earth families, the practical ones, the pragmatic ones. And if you are, for example, in a practical and pragmatic family, but you are a person with a lot of water, then you have a problem because your family cannot understand you, because you're probably again a scapegoat, because you differentiate from the family, because the earth family wants to see salaries, practical information, pragmatic information, wants to see you successful, earthy matters. And you, as a water person, you are into feelings, emotions, art, creativity. And this is, again, perhaps a problem. I myself am an air person. I have 65% air. Everything is on Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Everything is in the air. And my family is all of them with water, a lot of water and a lot of drama. That for me, it's unbearable how they like to be in that emotional turbulence and drama, but I cannot handle them. And they always see me as the bitch that differentiates and go outside the family and cannot communicate with them. And I'm not into this drama because for me as an airy person, I cannot conduct the proper way. You know how the air usually has this difficulty in expressing the emotions, and you see us like refrigerators. We are not, but we have a problem in expressing our emotions sometimes. So a family with a lot of water may also make you feel, a little like a different person. We have the air, the thinking family, and the water, the emotional family. And we have the ending houses. The 12th house is always important because you can see the cosmic soul in the family. In 2011, in Greece, we didn't had the concept of bullying in schools. It was foreign in Greece. For us, we are saying, the children tease the other children. That was the interpretation we had. And then we have a boy called Yakumakis that died because of extreme bullying in a university in the region of Epirus in Ioannina. And after that, finally, the Greek society understood the concept of bullying. This is the 12th house. People that have 12th house sometimes bear the evolutionary cause of a whole system to understand something. And yes, through the 12th house, you may become also the victim, but also you may become a person of strong influence to the people. So families that have a lot of 12th house may, for example, be victims of a whole difficult situation. For example, talking on UK standards, you decided, I don't like you decided that. I liked you being part of EU, I have to tell you. I will not forgive you for going out to EU. EU is not going to be the same without you. But you decided to do that, and you had this kind of also results in your own financial situation because you left the EU. So perhaps a lot of people change their life because you have to change the concept of a whole country. The country is no longer in EU. They change your financial situation, and a lot of families in EU are being affected by this. So families that have a lot of 12th house in their chart may be affected much more from these changes than the others. The 8th house is about the origins of the family. And usually in the family constellation, we are saying that there is a person that he is either a victim or a persecutor. Because, in the families, you don't have only victims. I have a family that I'm working with, and her grandfather killed his brother. So you don't have only victims. You may have people, for example, that worked with the Nazis, people that worked with the bad guys. After the Second World War in Greece, we have a civil war between the capitalists and the NATO and the American friendly forces and the Soviet forces. And Greece decided where to go in the 1950s. Thank God, because Churchill wanted us to be with the West. So the West Greece went with the West. So a lot of people killed their brothers and their sisters during the Greek Civil War. So you don't have only victims, you may have persecutors. And the 4th house is what is left of the family heritage for the next generations. So in a personal chart, the 4th house, also Bernadette Brady says that the fixed stars that are conjuncted in the Paranateloda with the 4th house, it is what you're going to leave after you die as your fame, what is going to be concluded in your life, what you're going to be remembered. And has in her book, the Brady's book of fixed stars, has a great example of Hitler having the IC conjunct in the Paranateloda with the capital gold, which we know it is a very negative fixed star. But you cannot just see the fixed stars, you can see the planets and how the ruler of the 4th house is connected with the rest of the chart. And then, of course, in the charts formation, you can see that charts that has a lot of fairies or families with a lot of fairies have a lot of conflicts, problems with survival, chaos. All great leaders comes from those families. Taurus families are usually safe, stable, and calm. Gemini families are splitted. They have overly increased communication and they're very open. Cancer, deeply emotional, complex, but also therapists. Cancers I know psychologists being counselors that they can heal before they started learning psychology because they are natural healers usually. Leos, great dramas, but also passions, tensions, creativity, leaders. Virgo, stress, health, hard work, efficiency. A family that has a lot of Virgo perhaps has always fighting with stress problems or with health problems. Libra loves, and I mean here that they have love stories that change the history and their life, relationships, appearance, sociability. Scorpio, both death, rebirth. People come from monks to criminals. Sagittarius, adventurous families without great ties and the need for change. Capricorn, issues of power, emotional crisis. Society and power, thinks about the material life, politicians. Aquarius, lack of family perception, idealism, independence. Birth of free spirits. Pisces, scapegoats, sacrifices. Saints, people of spirituality, but also when you see a family system being very Piscean, they may have chosen to be dissolved. You can see that in families, for example, they have 2 children or 3 children, and there is no children having family. All the children die without having children by themselves. So the family ends with them. This is usually what we call a family suicide. The family cannot continue and they choose to stop it. No children, no suffering. It is okay if it is 1 or 2 people, but when you see 2 out of 2, 3 out of 3, 4 out of 4 people not having children, this usually means that something is not really worked enough within the family. So unconsciously, they choose to end it in another way. And then we have the taking over, when past events take over the present life. Not just past events of our life, but past events of the life of the previous generations. We have Iron, which is about the interrupted reaching out movement in the family constellation. It is about when the parent was not available, on when your parent was having his parent not available. If your grandparent was not available to your parent, probably you are going to have also Iron because he learned not to be available. He cannot communicate emotionally because the parent was not there. That's why we have not available carers, and especially the parents. A sense of abandonment, a sense of being alone, existential anxiety, trauma. The following that I said before, and we have also the blind love. The blind love is when you love someone that you didn't met. For example, the family is creating a bond with you and the grandparent that you didn't met at all. My name is Christos. My grandparent was named Christos. I never met him, but they gave me his name because when I was 1, I was baptized because he died out of cancer when I was in my 10th month. And this is very common in Greek culture. We give the name to the children of our grandparents. But this may also result as a blind love. For example, a family wants, a mother may want to see her dead father into you. Perhaps you miss your mother and you want to see her again, partly through your child. And this is again something that enforces subconsciously to do things and push things in a situation that the child is going to react in the same way that it was reacting the grandfather or the grandparent. exclusion, as I said, the black sheep, the homosexual, the bad child, the unethical person, the rogue, panic, fear, the sense of not belonging. Exclusion also is very profound in Greece, for example, because of our migration problems. Greece is a country that has migration for many decades. This is not something you're going to see usually in UK because you don't go to other countries to find safety financially. But for example, in Greece, we had in the 50s, in the 60s, back again in 2010 because of the Greek debt crisis. So we have this exclusion by migration, or other countries, exclusion by refugees. And we have the set in the debt of the past, the debt of a country, a debt of a family. That's why usually when we work with German families, there is always something more complicated than we think. Because yeah, those people now that are born in 2000, they have nothing to do with the Nazi people, but there is a spiritual country debt that has to be paid and follows the generation of those people. And then, of course, you can see all this debt if it is connected with the retrograde planets. If you have a lot of retrograde planets in the chart of a family, usually there's something to do with the past. And it's probably very wise to do a constellation. I'm going to pass this because I want to show this is exactly how the astro dance, as I told before, you can see the planets being very powerful or not. And this is some techniques you can work like didactic techniques or lecturing, psychodrama, role play, solving exercises, dream walks. I have done a research, I called it a data, and usually people that they have an ancestor that was really excluded, you're going to see dreams of exclusion. And this is again connected with a very strong Saturn. It is very important to look out your dreams. It's not just me. All of the Freudian and Jungian psychologists are saying about the importance of dreams and how the dreams are the language of the subconscious. And Jung didn't believe about your personal subconscious. Jung differentiated himself from Freud because he believed that the dreams are the gate of the collective unconscious also. So it's not just about you, it's about your family, it's about the society, it's about the country, it's about the world. And we are connected through the dream world. There is another great book, I'm sorry, but I want you to read, not just stick to this presentation. This is a great book called Connected. It is of Roger Nelson. It is a great book and talks about how people are connected and through various phenomena. He has done a really scientific research. You can see that everything is connected on a level. And let's go a little further because I want you to see something about the development. No, I'm going to go here from here on. So we are here to the triangle of perversion. The triangle of perversion is usually when two people of the same generation are going against a third person of another generation, either older than them or younger than them. You're going to see it usually that in the triangle of perversion, the two charts of those two people are not connected in reality. They are fighting each other with a lot of oppositions. And you can find also some significant connections by using the draconic chart. For those of you that you don't know how to do a draconic chart, it is important to take the natal chart of a person, go in chart, or new, and in the zodiac going draconic. if you want to create a new chart, or by going to the chart you have already created, edit chart, and go to the zodiac and put dragonic. The dragonic chart takes the north node and makes it automatically 0 degrees of Aries. And everything changes as a longitude because the chart transforms because of the longitude. For example, this person is in the 10th degree of Aquarius, and this is the north node. In the draconic chart, the north node becomes the 0 degree of Aries. And then we start from here to count the zodiac signs. So by doing that, edit chart, and let's go to draconic. You can now see that the north node becomes the 0 degree of Aries. And now this Aquarius person becomes a Leo person. A Leo person in the 1st degree, which has to do with, for the metaphysical astrologers, with karma and what you have to deal in your life. But in a family constellation situation is about what the family gives you to deal with your life, what the family demands from you to do. And you can do all these changes. So in the triangle of perversion, let me again. In the triangle of perversion, the two charts of the people of the same generation are usually very well connected. And usually they have some extreme aspects with the third person on the normal chart, but also in the chart of the draconic. And in the draconic chart, you're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of differentiation, because you can see how the family demands from those two people to go against this third person. You can see a great example. I'm going to do that again. I'm sorry, but I want to show things, not just speaking. For example, we have two twins, okay? We have one twin, 2000, Athens, Greece. And the second twin is just 08. What do you do when you have two twins which has the same chart? You cannot say the same things to those two people. You are doing a Dwada Samsa chart or a 12-part chart. You go to the chart of the first one and you go chart, Vedic, and you choose for the first chart. Oh my God. Okay, let's take it out. Okay. And you create this one and you say no, not to change to Vedic zodiac. And then you go to 12 and again, no, to keep the Western zodiac. And although you have two twins, now you have, in just 8 minutes of difference, a completely different set of house systems. Because although they are very close on the harmonic 1 level, when you go to 12th part level, there is a difference even if you have twin people. Why this happened? Because, for example, this person, his degree is in 22nd of Aquarius, so his 12th part equivalents to Virgo, while the next one, if you go to the 12th chart, it is 20 to 20.3 Virgo, but from 22.3 till 25 of Capricorn, we have Libra. So in those 2.5 degrees, we have the whole sign. And through this, you create two different charts. But there is not called 12th part, unfortunately, in the solar fire. You can create it through the Vedic system of the Dwada Shamsa. but it is known in the Western astrology, and it is known in the ancient Greek astrology and in the Hellenistic parts. We use the 12-part charts, and you just have to go through the Vedic D12. And you can see difference in between Gemini charts, which is usually a problem, how to deal with Gemini chart, not Gemini twins charts, I meant. Let's go back again to the triangle of perversion. So the conflict is usually not obvious and it is hidden and unnamed. Again, it is going to be on the 4th, on the 8th, on the 12th house. You're not going to see it on the 1st house or in the 7th house. It is going to be a conflict that it is not easy to see. And then we have some roles that create problems to a group. The chronic talker, someone that has a problematic Mercury. The resistant, someone that has a problematic Saturn. The one who tried to get the lead, perhaps a person that has a lot of cardinal signs. The one who cries and plays the victim for being on the center of attention. That one that has a lot of Neptune, but on a negative expression. The leading planet. If it's the sun, we have powerful people, father figures, hero stories, and ego problems. The moon, women in service, maternal figures, emotional dysfunctions. Mercury, children, traveling, smart people, or people with neurological problems. Venus, about satisfaction. For example, the main problem of a family having a Venus conjunction Saturn in a chart is of not letting the people themselves to be satisfied, because Saturn forbids the sense of being satisfied. So if, for example, you have a Venus conjunction Jupiter, so you are into living the word, and the family you live in is a system of Venus-Saturn, they live their life of not leaving themselves satisfied. It is denied by their system to do that. You have a Venus-Jupiter conjunction, you are more about perfumes and eating and living the life and traveling and having some fun. You're going to be an alien for them. And then we have Mars, anger, aggressiveness, loss of control, accidents, warrior-like archetypes. Jupiter, traveling abroad, philosophy, the great giver, the benevolent, the one who said too much and didn't done anything also. Saturn, lack of emotional connection, harsh situations, trauma, the business family, the serious family, or a death that they changed their life. Chiron, the wounded family, the need for reconciliation. Uranus, the evolution, change, anarchy, lack of control, the family with no center. Neptune, victimization, loss, despair, depression, lack of energy, a serious health problem. Pluto, death, transformation, change. If you have some serious aspects between Saturn and Uranus, Neptune, Pluto in the family chart, perhaps there is a fated event that may alter the family's life. For example, if you have the Saturn having conjunction, square or opposition or eighth harmonic aspect like semi-square or sesquidrat, perhaps with Saturn Uranus, the family may have a rapid change, an unwelcomed rapid change perhaps. Or if you have Saturn with Neptune, perhaps in the family there may be some serious illness that may change your life. Or Saturn Pluto, a death that it is very difficult or unpredictable. Or Saturn Chiron, a traumatic event. Then we have the leading planet, a planet that is very strong. If it is retrograde, that means that the family system has to do with the past. For example, in the family chart, the most important planet is Jupiter. It's a great planet to have Jupiter, yeah, but if it's retrograde, this means that perhaps there is something from the past that needs to be healed or you have to deal with it. Very low points in essential or accidental dignities. And then I have to show another program. Let me just...
We've had a question which I think might be helpful. The leading planet meaning what? There are
the one
ways to
highest in the astrogiants I saw before. The highest in score in the astrogiants.
Okay. Thank you.
We said before that we have the astrogiant planet ASP. For example, the leading planet here is Neptune, is the most powerful. If you have uncertain or midheaven being first, go to the next one. There is always a leading planet, the one that has the most power in a chart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And let me show you a house chart. Okay. And I have to be... Well, this is a program called Regulus Platinum Pro Huber, and uses the Huber technique of the house system and of the environmental influences. You can see that on the cusps, it says that the influence is very important. But we have two dots. We have the great... I don't know if I can... No, I cannot show like writing, but you can see my mouse going back and forth in a specific region. Okay, so this is an external point. This is an external point, the cusp of every house. We have the first dot, which is the balance point, which is the point that the environment is not very demanding, and the low point, which is the point that the environment does not care. Every house has the same construction. The external point, the cusp of the house, the balance point, the region that the system is balanced, and the low point where the environment does not care. For example, you have a great planet like Mars in Aries, very powerful, full of many aspects that are very positive, but falls on the low point of the chart. You may be a great warrior, but the environment does not care about it, and you're not going to show it easily because the environmental demands are not looking at. Or you may have a weak planet like Mars in Cancer, having several difficult aspects, and it is right on a cusp, and the environment is telling you, you are going to live that, babe. And even if you don't have the potential to deal with it very creatively, because it is Mars in Cancer, you are going to live it, and you have to deal with it. So planets on the cusp, demanding environment. Planets on the low point, we don't care. And again, let's go to the PowerPoint. So we have a lot of planets that are in the low points. Means that we cannot live our life to the full potential. Because when we have planets to the low points, it's like the environment does not care, the society does not care, or there are no specific, for example, chances to show your potential. For example, let's say that in Greece we have thousands of people that they could be great astronauts, but we don't have NASA in Greece. And perhaps one or two Greeks may become astronauts and feel the potentiality of being great astronauts. So, no, you're not going to leave it because the society does not care or does not have the tools to understand your potentiality. So this is where you have to look at the low points. Sometimes the low points may mean that you have learned not to show your potentiality because the family system buried you underneath their problems, and you have to fight back, and you have to do something for this low point and show yourself. Also, you have to look, of course, as I said, planets conjunct the AC, the DSC, MCIC, planets being combust. Because if the leading planet is combust, this usually means that you have to do some serious changes in your life in matters of your lifestyle. For example, you have a leading planet, which is again Jupiter, but it is in combustion with the sun. Usually that means that you have to deal with a lot of things, and usually you are creating problems to your own fate because of many reasons. You have to look at the chart. Look also about stationary planets, because usually they are going to bring severe changes in your life, or conjunction with specific fixed stars. You know, of course, that Ptolemaic aspects are very important. I'm saying all the aspects are important, but the unaspected planet is really important. Another great book of Karen Hammaker-Zodek. Oh, this one. You have to buy it. It's the Yod book and the Unexpected Planets by Karen Hammaker-Zodek. It is a great book and says that the unexpected planets are directly connected with family situations, that the persons that they have a planet unexpected is because the family couldn't work on what this planet really meant. So if you have an unexpected planet, is again a family constellation situation that you have to deal about the past. And of course, there are some important aspect configurations. You have to look at it. The Grand Cross, the Grand Trine, the Yod, Boomerang, and T-square. The Yod specifically is very important because when you have a planet that does the two in conjunctions, usually is a planet of a family problem, something that the family couldn't work, and you have to find the solution. There are some other aspect configurations very important, but only those that they have done Huber astrology may know them. The Pandora's gift, the learning triangles, the cradle, the sealed, and the ambivalent triangles. And then we have, of course, the houses. If on the family house system, the first house is very important, then the health of the participants may be affected. The second house, usually a critical financial situation. The third house, problems with communication. Fourth house, family concerns. Fifth house, about children, creativity, love. Sixth house, health, work, everyday life, sense of purpose. Seventh house, problems with law or partnerships, perhaps a difficult marriage. Eighth house, fears, a death, anxiety, problems with money. Ninth house, dogmatism, lack of flexibility, afraid of change. 10th house, career problems. 11th house with friends. 12th house, isolation, fear, scapegoating, victimization. If a family natal chart has a lot of 12th house, then of course you may have all these problems. Again, by creating a chart, as I said before, you create a chart in the solar fire, you just see it and go to reports, and by astrodyne houses, you see which house is the most strong and if it is in harmony or a disharmony. So you don't have to do it by your hand if you want. Again, let's go back to the PowerPoint and let's go further. The absence of something may be also very important, like in an unexpected planet, a lack of an element. Why a family chart has not Earth? This is a significant information. Why there is a lack of an aspect. Even, for example, the lack of quincunxes is very important. If a family has not quincunxes, which you usually say them as bad, means that the family cannot cope with the endings. So, or even a natal chart that does not have quincunxes may have a problem in dealing with the endings. Usually you cannot accept that things end, that you have to go further, that things need to change. Or there may be a lack of longitude band, which comes from the Babylonian astrology. Usually, according to the Babylonians, when we have a lack of planets from the first 9 degrees, it is about the first part of the life that is going to be difficult. From 10 to 19, the problematic part of the life is the second third, and the 20 to 29 is the third part of the life. Of course, I'm looking always on parallels and contra-parallels. Hidden planets, which means planets that are very north or south the equator, and usually they are giving a lot of information about extreme emotions. And usually when we have extinct planets or out of bound planets, those planets mean some serious family situation. Again, solar fire can show to you if you have out of bound planets. The only thing you can do, is going here, reports, tabulations, and going to declinations. By going to declinations, if a planet is on the same side, there is a parallel. Is from the opposite side, there is a contraparallel. And if a planet is higher than this ob, you see, it is out of bounds. So means that this planet is on extremes. And usually a planet that it is out of bounds, it is expressing himself in an extreme way. And usually it is connected with the family system. Again, we can go and see that we have also planets on multiple eclipses. Eclipse we have when a planet is on parallel and in conjunction at the same time, or contra-parallel and opposition at the same time. So you have a planet in conjunction and parallel, we have an eclipse. You have a planet in opposition and contra-parallel, we have again an eclipse. If you have several planets at the same time being in parallel and in conjunction, that means you have a multiple eclipse. A multiple eclipse, again, is a very important phenomenon. Mitchell wrote again a great book that you can buy about the psychology of parallels and contra-parallels. I will find it. It lurks somewhere here around me, but if you type Mitchell, and it is about the psychology of declinations, you're going to find it is a great book and very useful book. I will find it till the end of my lecture. I will show you to you. And then we have, as I said, the out of bound, I've also called Luciferian planets because they are acting like the myth of Lucifer, going against the God's will or going against the family will. So if you have a planet out of bounds, usually you are going against the order of the family. So you are revolting, you're showing off, you're trying to give a message, you are not cooperative, and usually there is a clash with the rest of the family. And then we have perhaps conflicting subpersonalities, which is usually ground formations, ground configurations that are very different. A classic example, a ground trine with a ground square at the same time. According to the Hubers, again, different configurations are showing conflicts in a subpersonality level. Perhaps every subpersonality is connected with something that was not dealt in the past. So you may have a behavior of going against your own wellness sometimes when you have to deal with different configurations of different energy. And then we have the ghost kid, which is it always fascinates me, and it happens so many times. My best friend is a ghost kid. He was born in the 21st of December 1982. His sister died on the 21st of December 1981. So usually you have a child that died before you were born. This is the concept of the ghost kid. And this happens on many levels. Usually the parents want from you to live your life and the life of the person or the child they have lost. This creates the concept of the ghost kid. It's like you have to deal with your own life, but also a life that a previous person didn't live, and you have to live for him. And you have to look the prenatal chart, if you know, of the conception of the child that was not born. But if it was born and died after it was born, you can just look at the natal chart and you can see the connections it has with your own chart. And usually there is a strong pressure from the family for you to live also the life of the dead one, because the family cannot accept the loss. So you have to do also more job than the others. You have to look the order, because if you are the first child, you're usually having much more things to deal with, because your parents don't know how to be parents and they learn with you to be parents. The second child feels a different story, and the third child also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, Christos.